Hello everyone, and welcome again to today's lecture on Hardscape Construction. The learning objectives will be to indicate what is meant by hardscape, describe how hardscape material serves in functional or aesthetics ways, discuss how hardscape materials are selected, differentiate between the different types of hardscape, enclosure, or surfacing materials. When differentiating the different types of enclosure and surfacing, we want to explain how the dimensions of outdoor steps are calculated. Describe the basic steps in the creation of the recirculating water features. We will introduce to you how the landscape architect and designers use hardscape to accentuate their designs. In some cases, designers must find ways to attract as little attention as possible to hardscape. Adding hardscapes to a design may create challenges, but the end result can add to the overall effect of the design. Hardscape is an umbrella term. It has been recently used in the industry. Most people were aware of the softscape. Now the hardscape has come into this landscaping industry. Refer to everything that is part of the landscape composition other than the plant materials. When designing your hardscape, you need to make sure that you are in tune with what your client wants. Budget constraint of the project, concern of those who will maintain it, because if the hardscape is not maintained well, it begins to look ugly, and get professional expertise on the installation of hardscape. Criteria. How is it going to function within the landscape? What will the cost of this hardscape be? The strength, how long will it last? Can it stand up to the weather, the thawing and freezing? Your client's preferences. Make sure you do not push on your client what they do not want just to sell a particular product. Integration, maintenance concern. That is one of the biggest factors with it, to continuously maintain, because you do not want grass growing in between the paving areas. In this new role, get to know the familiar materials, such as the synthetic materials. There are many traditional materials out there, but they cannot do the job as well as the more modern alternatives. Concrete, for example. There are many ways to design with using concrete, but make sure that they bring out the look without accompanying structural failure. Rubber in the landscape can be used on a playground to absorb shock. They do not attract moles, insects, or animals, and you will not have weeds on the playground. It is also a wonderful way to permit wheelchairs in your playground area. Decking. They are low maintenance and extremely durable in this new plastic form of decking. They do not have the splinter that you will find when using the wooden materials. Other synthetic materials you will find in the landscape: fencing, plastic furnitures, garden art of various kinds. They are made with concrete, some are made with plastic. Turfs, you have artificial turfs. These are new ways in the landscape that are not your traditional ways, and you need to think about how you would use it and encourage your clients to see that it is okay to go away from your traditional ways, but that comes under the hardscape rather than that being a softscape. Hardscape becomes very important in a landscape when there are level changes, such as steps and ramps. You want to take into consideration very carefully how to design these changes and what are the safety mechanisms you will implement in order for you to reduce accidents occurring within your design. You might want to consider a ramp where it is needed. You might consider lighting and understanding the slopes within the landscape to make changes at the top and the bottom of the outdoor staircases. Further concerns in the technicality of the landscape is when you create the stairs, make sure that you understand the steps are composed of two parts. You have the rise and the tread. You want to have wider treads and lower rises. The treads must be wide enough to permit the foot to rest comfortably. We will be looking at walks, drives, and stepping stones. What is good and what is not good, such as slice of solid pavement, cutting across the lawn, attraction to the viewer's eyes. In most cases, these are not desirable attributes, so let's see how we can make our landscape beautiful. In walks, the primary thing you want to think about will be how often is it used by people. In your second understanding of designing your walks, how is it connected to an area that is less used? How will you connect these things? How wide do you want to make your path, your walkways? Most time it is 3 feet wide, but considering your information you have gathered, you might want to make it wider. Stepping stones. These are very wonderful things to use, but how do you use it in the landscape without it having grass all in between and missing the whole point? The secondary walkways or lesser used pathways, how can you make this look wonderful and avoid creating a tiptoe effect, jumping from one stone to the next? How do you make this natural transition as you move on into the space using your foot without feeling like you're going to be hopping over something that will be harmful? You need that natural feeling to it. How do you accommodate traffic within the landscape? These are all very important to consider when you are designing. Ask yourself questions again. How often when I come to do this driveway will people be going up and down the driveway? Do I attract a lot of attention or not too much attention? Does it need to be minimized or maximized? Screening. What sort of screening do I use? Do I use the hardscape screening at this stage, or do I want to bring in some softscape to soften it up? What colors do I want to bring into the landscape in order for it to be seen, this driveway to be seen? Incorporation of various materials used elsewhere to give you a curved appeal so the landscape and the hardscape blends together beautifully. Water features. It is said that without water in the landscape, you are missing a vital part of the design. So having some form of water features within the landscape is very important. It gives you a complete landscape design. But you have to consider the plumbing, the pumps, the electricity within this particular design you want to create. You sit down with your client and ask your client, what exactly do they want? Will the design be for aesthetics or utilitarian purposes? What is the intended appeal of the water feature? Will it be natural or crafted? How will it be maintained? understand the maintenance requirements involved, and how much will it cost the client to spend in designing, installing, and maintaining this water feature. Constructing a recirculating water feature. It is very important to understand what is required and what are the concerns that goes along with this construction. Location. Where will you locate it? What is the slope like? Containment. How will you contain the water? The apparatus you will use. Keeping the water clean. What have you put in place for this? Powering up and maintaining the water level. All of these things are very important as you make your consideration for designing your water features. In summary, there are many types of hardscape that serves many different functions. The use of hardscapes in the landscape accentuate the features, and this allows for a greater depth to the landscape design. Hardscape adds additional flavor to the overall look, but requires an increased investment from the homeowner. Well, that will be all for today. See you next time. Goodbye.